We are talking about the Murdaugh federal sentence, not the Murdaugh appeal on the murder case. Murdaugh had multiple cases. The state level murder case for one, the federal fraud, et cetera, case was two. He also has state level fraud cases that he pled to. And there are some tax cases that are still floating, or at least last I checked, were still floating. Could they have been resolved now? Maybe. But on the murder case, he got life plus life. On the federal theft from client fraud causes of action, he got 40 years. And the judge was like, so federal prosecutors, I see that you're asking for less than that. Nope. And sentenced him to more than what the federal prosecutors were asking for, which is rare to me. It's interesting to see how this federal case came about. But again, the judge was just like, I'm sending a message. You're already in prison for life plus life. This is a message, not just to Murdaugh about what he did, but also a message to other attorneys in a position of trust that if they fuck around, they will in fact find out. The federal case was based on a plea deal. Remember, we read through the entire plea agreement together. I know it's so many cases. We read through the plea agreement together. And what did the plea agreement have in it that was super impactful to what's going on now? A waiver of appeal. I waive my right to appeal. And then what did Murdaugh do? Fucking appealed. He sure did. And the prosecutors came in and were like, adorbs. What you can't do is waive your right to appeal and then turn around and appeal. Even when you waive your right to appeal, there is a very narrow carve out that allows you to appeal in very limited circumstances. One of those circumstances is if the law changes. So if the thing you're doing is a crime and then later becomes like not a crime, you can appeal down the road saying, hey, you punished me for crime that's no longer a crime. Can we reconsider all of this? Things like that. Very narrow circumstances when you may appeal the law changing. You can't just appeal like, hey, so I don't like what you sentenced me to. That's not it. You can't withdraw your plea because you don't like what the judge is sentencing you to. This is different federal system by state by state. Sometimes in states, you have different options. A lot of times in states, there will be a plea with a plea agreement, and then the judge just imposes the sentence you agreed to. Plea agreement, judge sentence. That is not how the federal system works. The federal system is, all right, well, the judge is going to do what the judge is going to do. We agree that your sentencing range will be here, but we don't agree to what your sentence will be. The judge gets to decide. And that is very different in the federal system than the state system. It's wild to me. The judge is going to do what the judge is going to do. Okay. So when you plea, you really don't know what's going to happen. Murdaugh's like, I don't need to go to federal trial. Let's just plea. Murdaugh couldn't have really gone to a federal trial anyway. He admitted to all the financial crimes in the state level murder trial. They would just come in and be like, you admitted to all of this stuff. So what would you like to do at trial? Because you already admitted to everything on the stand in your state trial. Richard Alexander Murdaugh seeks to appeal the 480-month sentence imposed following his guilty plea to conspiracy to commit wire fraud and bank fraud in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1349, bank fraud in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1344, 5 counts of wire fraud in violation of 1343, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, 1349, and 14 counts of money laundering in violation of 1956 A1B1. The government moves to dismiss the appeal pursuant to the appeal waiver in Murdaugh's plea agreement. Appeal waiver. Murdaugh opposes the motion, arguing that his Eighth Amendment challenges to his sentence fall outside the scope of the waiver. Upon review of the record and the parties' submissions, we conclude that Murdaugh knowingly and voluntarily waived his right to appeal. We further conclude that Murdaugh, quote, has failed to demonstrate an acceptable reason why his appeal waiver should not be enforced under his Eighth Amendment claims. Accordingly, we grant the government's motion to dismiss the appeal. Boom, roasted. That's it. That is it. You waived your right to appeal. So you get what you get and you don't get upset. So the federal appellate court said there was no misunderstanding. You knew exactly what you were doing. You were advised by multiple lawyers, and also You are a lawyer. So if anyone understands, it's you. It's not that they're denying the appeal. They are throwing out the entire thing. Just yeet. So we knew that's what was going to happen. But at least as to the federal case, we are done. I can't see Murdaugh's lawyers appealing this. It doesn't mean they won't, but why would you even bother? So his appeal was thrown out. So denied, yes, but the motion to yeet was granted. So the federal court, that part should be done, finally done, case closed, done. Should be done. The murder case is not done. And the murder case is not going to be done for a while. That is not uncommon in murder cases. The appeal with regard to the courthouse Becky stuff is going to go on for quite a while. And after the appeal for the courthouse Becky stuff is done, then there will be all the other levels of appeal for all the other stuff going on with the new trial. The courthouse Becky stuff has really sidetracked the rest of the appellate process. So that appellate process is going to happen. And then we're going to get into the other side of it. The court allowed Murdaugh to pause his other appeals and follow the new trial. So the motion for new trial is happening. The appeal on the motion for new trial is happening. That is all separate than what you see in your regular appeals. So he hasn't even gotten to his regular appeal on the murder, like the judge allowed in this evidence and he shouldn't, the judge did this and he shouldn't. All of that part of the murder appeal hasn't even started yet because the appellate court allowed that to be paused until the motion for new trial is resolved. And the motion for new trial is going up on appeal. So until that round of appeals is done, we've got another round of appeals after it. So the murder case is going to be on appeal for quite a while if the new trial doesn't get granted. Of course, if the new trial gets granted, then that line of appeals will be cut off because a new trial will happen. Whatever happens after that new trial, then it will begin again. But with the federal case, we should be done. For deep dives into the stories that I covered here, you can find them on my YouTube channel at The Emily D. Baker and The Emily Show podcast. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday. The podcast goes live on Wednesdays. And if you want to stay in the loop with everything I'm doing, receive the fastest notifications out there, and get more Law Nerd community, join me at lawnerd.app.com, our free app for iOS and Android.